Hello Year 5 and welcome to our reading session for Monday of week 2, and we're going to be continuing with our main text called The Explorer, so you need to make sure that you've got the text in front of you. Pause the video now to go and retrieve it if needs be. Okay, so our objectives today are to summarise the main events of chapter 7, which is called The Raft, and of chapter 8, which is called Maiden Voyage. We're going to be inferring a character's thoughts and feelings. That means we're reading between the lines to work out what a character might be thinking or feeling at different points in the story. And we're also going to be defining vocabulary through the context in which the word appears, so whereabouts in the sentence it appears. Well, chapter 7 is called The Raft, and I want you to have a little think now. What is a raft? What is it for? And I put a little clue on the board here on the screen. You'll see some water in the rainforest. Now, what do you think a raft could be? Pause the video now and have a think and write down your ideas. Okay, so a raft is usually a wooden structure which is flat, and it is what we call buoyant. That means it can float on water. And in this picture here, you can see an example of a raft on the water, so it has to float. Otherwise, if it sunk, it would be no good. What I'd like you to do as your task is to design your own raft using only the sorts of materials you would find in the rainforest. So we've got lianas, branches and vines. I'd like you please to design your own raft using only the sorts of materials you'd find in the rainforest. Pause the video now and complete your task. Wow, I'm sure you've come up with some fantastic designs for your raft. Perhaps you've used lianas, like you can see in the picture here, to sort of tie things together. Branches for the main bits of the wood that are kind of kept flat so that they will be able to float on the water. Vines as well to tie bits of wood and to secure different fastenings to it. Now, in the story of the explorer, the children create a raft because they believe that if they can go along the river, that would lead them to a city or town that they would be able to be rescued from. So they set about trying to design a raft. Okay, so word detectives. This particular activity, I'd like us to have a look at the context of vocabulary in order to try and work out what it means. So you don't need a dictionary for this activity. We're simply going to use where the word appears in the text to help us work out the meaning. So as the children are deciding what they should do in order to try and be rescued, they're debating amongst one another whether they should build a raft or not. Fred's right, we should try, said Lila. I think it's a good idea. I knew you'd say that, said Con. I knew you'd agree with him. But Lila looked bewildered. Don't you want to go home? Don't you want to see your mama? Okay, now the word I'd like us to have a look at is the word bewildered. Do you think it means very angry? Do you think it means very puzzled? Or do you think it's very upset? So look to see, here it appears. Does Lila look very angry, very puzzled, or very upset? Pause the video now and write down which answer you think. Very good, if you got the answer, very puzzled. Yes, bewildered is another way of saying very puzzled. Make a note of that, please, in your books. Pause the video now to do so. Next, word detectives. Con was different when she worked. Before, she had seemed all eyebrows and claws, touch me not and defensive eyebrows. But now she seemed absorbed, barely breathing as she bent over the vines. Now the word I'd like us to have a look at is defensive. Do you think it means oversensitive, expressive, or large? So this is describing the look of her eyebrows. Does it mean oversensitive, expressive, or large? Pause the video now and write down your idea. Very good, if you got the answer, oversensitive. Yes, defensive means that you get very offended easily, or very defensive very easily. Very sensitive very easily, I should say. So write that word down if you didn't know what it meant. Good. Okay, now we're looking at page 74, so follow please as I read. They were not better roasted, but they ate them anyway. Fred crouched by the fire and crammed handfuls in his mouth, trying desperately to fill the churning hole where his stomach was usually located. So we're talking about the cocoa beans here. That night he woke in sudden and excruciating need of the lavatory. Minutes later, Lila woke with the same trouble, followed by Con and a hopping, wailing Max. So just to explain the lavatory, this is a little joke that the children had just a few pages before. Rather than saying a lavatory as a toilet, they're saying a lavatory because it's obviously an outdoors toilet that they have. It's not like the toilet that you'd have at school or at home, for example, but it's one that's very much outdoorsy next to a tree. The word we're looking at here is excruciating. Do you think excruciating means causing great pain, causing great excitement, or does it mean joyful? So have a think, read whereabouts the word appears in the sentence, and pause the video now to write down your answer. Excellent stuff. If you got the answer causing great pain, you are correct. Well done. Excruciating means to cause great pain. So they're feeling very, very uncomfortable because of the food that they've eaten has upset their tummy. So they are desperate then to go to the toilet, all of the children. Okay, looking at page 75 in the text, this is the part where, of course, Fred is very busy building the raft. I want you, please, to try and summarise in 3 words how you think Fred feels on this page, and why do you think he feels like this. Now, in order to do this task, I've put up some key pictures to help you, because obviously he's building the raft. I've put a picture of a hot sun, hot temperatures there, because of course the temperature is described, that you've got the materials that they're having to find in order to make the raft. And you can see here a picture of a hand with what we call blisters on. So if you've ever had a blister on your foot, you'll know how painful they are. And Fred has blisters on his hand. So what I'd like you to do now is to read the page for yourselves, page 75 in your book, and summarise in 3 words how Fred feels. Pause the video now to complete your activity. Okay, so obviously you're all going to have very different ideas, and possibly your ideas will be very different from my own. But I would say that Fred is determined. He's determined to finish this raft and to make sure it's buoyant, that it will float on the water, and that they'll be able to continue. They'll be able to survive and be rescued. You could use the word that we used in word detectors, that he's in excruciating pain or discomfort because his hands are so blistered. I can't imagine having to work so hard with my hands, and they're in a really, really painful state. So I'd say excruciating as well. And I would say exhausted. He's been working flat out, really, really busy trying to put together all of these materials, and he's working in very difficult conditions without food in burning hot sunshine. So those are 3 possible words. But hopefully you have come up with your own ideas, and if you've come up with some different ideas, that's great. As long as you can support your ideas with evidence from the text, that is okay. Right then, so chapter 8, the raft has been put together, and we're now on the Maiden Voyage. So Maiden Voyage is the first journey. A voyage is a journey, the first journey of this raft. And we're now reading from page 84. So Con is speaking. I've got a photographic memory, actually, she said. Really? Asked Lila, fascinated. You mean you see pictures? Do you remember everything that way, or only some things? Mostly just maps and formulae and blueprints for things. So the photographic memory, as is explained there, is a memory as though you're taking a photograph. You can remember that Con can remember things in extraordinary detail. And this is a real thing, by the way. People do have photographic memories. Formulae, we think about with maths, particularly. So that's why there's that picture of formula, or formulae is the plural, more than one formula. And then blueprints, if you're looking at the designs of like a house, for example, or the design for any kind of construction. They're very detailed, and we call them blueprints. So clearly Con's got a great talent here. I'd like you to use the information on page 84 to explain what a... Okay, so I'd like you, as your task, to use the information on page 84 to explain what a photographic memory is. You might want to draw a picture as well to help you. And I'd like you to write why you think this might be useful to the children. Can you predict why this could be helpful to them? What do you think might happen next? Because the author has obviously chosen for this character to have a photographic memory for a reason. So try and think about how this might benefit the children, benefit them as a group. Pause the video now. No. Wonderful ideas, well done. I'd thought for this that a photographic memory, of course, as an explanation, it's as though your mind can take a photograph of something, so you see something in amazing detail that you can remember the tiniest, most minute detail about something because your mind can just capture that image like with a photograph on a device. Why might this be useful to the children? Well, Con might be able to remember certain details about a map, for example, if they found one, or the designs of the aeroplane, for example, or just really important information that might help them with their rescue. Well done for all your ideas, and if you did a little picture as well to help explain your ideas, that's also great. Okay, so tomorrow's lesson, we're going to be looking at chapter 10, Abacaxi. So make sure that, if you can read ahead, that it would be fantastic. If not, don't worry, because we will go through the main events tomorrow. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks very much for all your hard work, and see you again soon. Bye.